Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam Malaysia Madani. Yang berbahagia Datuk-Datuk, Datin-Datin, Profesor Dr, Wakil-Wakil Kementerian, Wakil-Wakil Media, Tuan-Tuan dan Puan-Puan serta hadirin yang dihormati sekalian. Selamat datang diucapkan ke Simposium Kos Sara Hidup tahun 2023, SCOL 2023 yang bertemakan menangani kos sara hidup tanggungjawab bersama. Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, kita akan mulakan dengan sesi yang pertama iaitu diskusi pertama bertajuk Kos Sara Hidup versus Kos Gaya Hidup. Majlis dengan ini ingin dengan sukacitanya ingin menjemput moderator bagi diskusi ini yang berusaha Dr. Rafidah Abdullah, Pakar Perubatan Hospital Putrajaya. Dua pembentang iaitu pembentang pertama yang akan membentangkan tajuk Daya Rakyat versus Kos Perubatan oleh Cik Rusidah binti Selamat, Pengarah Bahagian Pemakanan, dan pembentangan kedua yang akan dibentangkan oleh Profesor Dr Cooray, Perubahan Diet Masyarakat JEPUN memberi kesan kepada gaya hidup. Dengan penuh takzim dan hormatnya, saya persilakan panelis dan moderator untuk ke atas pentas. Yang berusaha Dr. Rafidah untuk memulakan perbincangan. Dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi semua. Apa khabar? Okey, terima kasih pengerusi majlis kerana menjemput saya dan kedua panel kita hari ini. So tanpa membuang masa lah, saya just a few things because sesi yang pertama ni kita akan conduct dalam bahasa Inggeris. Okey kalau tidak nanti kita ada tetamu Profesor Cooray, nanti dia tak faham pula apa kita cakap nah. So saya memang kita akan bermula dengan Dr. Rusidah, lepas tu kita akan dengar dengan Profesor Cooray. Jadi soalan boleh bertanyakan soalan, mungkin kalau ada soalan ke apa-apa. So jadi without further ado, right, I am going to invite our first speaker, Dr. Rusidah. Dr. Rusidah adalah Pengarah Bahagian Pemakanan Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia. She has got more than 30 years of experience in this field. I think she is the right person to set the scene, to talk to us about diet rakyat Malaysia versus kos perubatan. So basically Malaysian diet versus healthcare cost. So without further ado, may I invite Puan Rusidah to give her talk. Thank you very much.
Slide tak ada. Can I have the slide, please? Can I have the slide on? Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning. Salam sejahtera. Salam Malaysia Madani. Thank you, Madam Moderator, for a kind introductions. As highlighted by Dr. Rafidah, this session will be conducted in English. Since Dr. Cooray cannot understand me, but I can understand him. So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers on behalf of the MOH for giving us the opportunity to take part in this symposium. So, in line with the theme of the symposium on the cost of living, our responsibility. So, I will share some highlight on the Malaysians' diets and also the cost of healthcare. So, in the context of Malaysia. So, I think we do not deny the importance of healthy diets and also in relation with the diet-related chronic non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, all that. So next slide. Okay, as of 2023, we have in Malaysia about 33.4 million the Malaysian populations, and our life expectancy at birth is roughly about 74 years, 74.5 years in 2013, and increased slightly in 2023, 74.8 years. And female is basically live longer than male. Yeah? So bear that in mind, that we wish that we have healthy aging throughout our life, without chronic diseases, all that. So with the mega trend changes, as Malaysia is going to be an aged population, by 2030. So 2030 is roughly about 7 years, less than 7 years from now. So most of us, including me, will be an aged population. So we hope that, with the increased prevalence of NCDs, especially the diet-related NCDs, will bear a lot of burden to the country. So next slide. So I'll give some overview on the current nutrition situations here in Malaysia. So roughly, based on the Sustainable Development Goals, so Malaysia is currently facing double burden of malnutrition. So if we notice that, what is double burden malnutrition? Double burden means that refers to the coexistence of over and undernutrition, whether it's within the household, within the community, or in the bigger context in the country. So among the younger children, among under 5, we have a problem of undernutrition, stunting, wasting, overweight, and we are not really achieving the Sustainable Development Goal target. But at the same time, among older children, especially the adolescent, 10 to 17 years old, we observe otherwise. So we have seen there the increased prevalence of obesity. So obesity is basically, if related to diet, it's basically imbalance of dietary intakes and also the exercise. And this is the window for many of diseases. Okay, next slide. So now we go for adults. As reported in the NHMS 2019, 1 in 2 adults aged 18 years and above, they are having either overweight, obesity, as measured by the BMI. So if you are having BMI more than 25, you are considered overweight, as measured by BMI. But if you are having your waist circumference more than 80 centimeters for women, and for men more than 90 centimeters, you are considered as having abdominal obesity. So those who are having abdominal obesity, you are even at higher risk for chronic non-communicable diseases. This is a thing that we have to be very serious. So we have to be mindful on our body. Not only that you are overweight in the sense of BMI, but also you have to look into our waist as well. Okay, next. So apart from the abdominal obesity and obesity overall, we also have other chronic non-communicable diseases. So we have diabetes, so we have hypertension, so we have hypercholesterolemia. So if we notice that, of course, we managed to reduce the pace of increase of overweight, just a 0.3% increase within the 4 years. But for diabetes, the prevalence, there is an increase of roughly about 2%. So 2% small in the percentage, in the form of percentage, but in terms of number, it's huge. The same thing for hypertension. Although there is no increase, very slight reductions for the hypertension, but then the overall prevalence about 30%. 1 in 3 of our population is having hypertension. And among women of the reproductive age group, we have about 1/3 of them basically having anemia. So if we are talking about the Dohat theory, development origin of health and diseases, NCDs is basically developed during the gestational period. So even the womb, so we have to be mindful, even those mothers who are planning to get pregnant, you have to be aware your anemic status, all that. Because anemic mothers will tend to deliver a low birth weight babies and so forth. The cycle continues. And even the elderly also, we have more or less the same scenario. Okay, next. Okay, as for the diet-related behaviors, dietary behavior among adolescents. So we have just selected, there are a few parameters here. Fruit intake, veggies intake. These are one of the core indicators that we measure. As far as for the fruit and veggies intake, yeah, of course, quite a number of them were taking a lot of fruit and veggies, but those who are taking enough fruit and veggies are still very small. So as reported, those who are just measuring by fruit intake twice daily, about 37.3% in 2022. It's a slight reduction, and also for the veggies intake. And fortunately, so this is a good sign that carbonated soft drink intake is slightly reduced as compared to the adolescent health survey 2017, from 36% to 32%. And the same thing for the fast food intake. And we hope that this reduction will continue. All right. Okay, next slide. Okay, as for the prevalence of sweetened beverages, so if you are aware, PMX now is really embarking us, all the ministries, to conduct the national campaign. So for the sugar reductions, we realize that sugar is closely related. Apart from dental caries, it's also related to a lot of chronic non-communicable diseases, especially diabetes. So those who are taking self-prepared drinks, about 2/3 of them, of our population adults, 18 years, they are taking sweetened beverages. And then carbonated drink, 10.9% they are taking daily. And worst case, those who are taking premix. Premix now is getting so popular, 2-in-1, 3-in-1, 4-in-1. This does not count those who are taking all those boba stays, all those popular drinks. So these are the things that we have to really address in the countries. Okay, next. So in terms of the dietary patterns among adults, so again, if you are talking the adequacy, now if you like to have the benefit of taking fruit and veggies, you have to take enough. It's not enough if you are taking fruit and veggies daily, but make sure you are taking enough fruit and veggies. And how much fruit and veggies? You just remember 5, 2 fruit and 3 veggies. So this is how much that you should take in a day. So 5 a day. So you just remember that, so 5 servings. So basically 2 oranges, for example, or you have 1.5 cup of veggies in the form of cook or perhaps the salad or what. So now I would like to touch, especially on the plain water intake. Looks so simple, but many of us are really taking that lightly. So many of Malaysians were not really taking enough plain water. Plain water is so crucial, especially for, instead of ensuring your hydration status, also ensure your renal health. Jadi these are the things that we have to really address, the issues. And also in terms of, now I will go basically on the cost of the healthcare. Can I have the next slide? Okay, in terms of the healthcare, the cost of the healthcare, I'm not going to go that very detailed. I just would like to focus on the few chronic diseases, the major one, diabetes, CVDs, and also cancer. This is as what reported in the direct healthcare cost in Malaysia for NCDs in 2022. So in 2011, the cost for treatment for diabetes, cost for the government is roughly about 2.04 billion. And in 2017, it cost government roughly about 4.38 billion. So it's already doubled. So just imagine, now it's already 2023. So we presume the cost is even more than 4.38 billion. So if we consider here the treatment cost for CVD in 2017, 3.93 billion, the treatment cost for cancer, 1.34 billion, and the overall cost for healthcare costs for NCDs, this include the medications, lab tests, consumable, outpatient follow-up, and so forth, cost government for the 3 diseases, CVDs, cancer, and diabetes, roughly about 9.65 billion in 2017. So just imagine, not only that really costly for the government for the treatment, but also it really bring a lot of miserable life to the families, in terms of the cost of living, because you have to sacrifice. You have to use your pocket money to actually address the issues and get the treatment, right? Okay, next slide. So in terms of the productivity losses resulting from the premature death related to NCD. So if we compare other NCD risk factors such as tobacco use, unhealthy diet, low physical activity, and alcohol use, unhealthy diet constitute the highest contributors for the productivity losses, accounted about 1.75 billion for CVD, diabetes 23.74 million, and cancer 99.3 million. This is the highest. So make sure, because even in Islam also, we have already mentioned that 80% of the diseases basically are coming from your stomach. So if you can transform our life, basically our diet, intake, our practices, all that, also our exercise, basically we can address most of diet-related NCDs, such as diabetes, and also hypertension. So, okay, the national blueprint. So since we have a limited time, so I'll just cut it short for this. So basically, as mentioned, the vicious cycle. So in addressing the issues, so we have to bear that in mind. Somehow or other, we have to break the vicious cycle. So we need a multi-pronged strategies to address. So the government has the role, the private sector's got the role. So we need to have the whole of government and the whole of society's approach. So we also need to be responsible of our health. And we have to be mindful. Don't expect the government to monitor and treat our health problems. So we have also to be mindful of our health. Okay, next slide. Okay, in terms of the conceptual framework of childhood malnutrition, again, the inadequate access to food especially, this is an issue, because if you are not getting enough access to food, especially for the under 5, all that for the family, sometimes the first thing that you have to salvage, or you have to drop and you have to sacrifice is basically food. If you don't have enough money, you have to reduce. If you used to take, let's say, fish or protein twice a day, if you don't have enough money to purchase, you have to reduce the intake to once a day. These are the things in terms of the basic Maslow's of need. So again, in terms of the next slide, health white paper. So we would like to now transform. So we always say prevention is better than cure. We know that the treatment cost is so expensive and it really burdening, not only for the government but also for the families, because we have to sacrifice. So instead of we are spending money for food, for nice holiday, for nice quality of life, you have to spend your money for medication, for treatment. So we have to prevent the disease as early as possible. This is what the health white paper is all about. So we would like to remove, to transform from the sick care to health care and also to the wellness. So make sure, so to do that, so we have to start as early as possible, from the young age. So we have to invest that. So if you are talking about the cost of living, so make sure that your children, you have to breastfeed. So when they come to preschool, so make sure you are feeding good enough. And so these are the things, and you have to monitor their growth. So don't wait until they reach adult stage, because by that time it's already too late. Okay, next. Okay, in terms of the National Nutrition Policy of Malaysia, so actually in Malaysia we are not lacking in terms of basic blueprint. So there is a National Nutrition Policy of Malaysia 2.0. So basically one of the things is that to reduce double burden of nutrition and also enhance food and nutrition security. So this relates also with the cost of living. Okay, next. Okay, next. Next. Okay. So basically in terms of the implementations, monitoring evaluation mechanism for the whole of the nutrition scenario, because we realize that in Malaysia, we have that to address the undernutrition, especially the double burden of malnutrition among children. Just to let you know that there is a special committee to combat double burden of malnutrition among children in Malaysia, because we realize that this is a very crucial stage whereby we should put up more of our investment for health, especially for nutrition. Like in Japan also, they really go all out in addressing the issues of under and overnutrition and also sustaining the health well-being or the nutritional well-being of the populations. Okay, next. Okay, apart from that, okay, there is also nutrition policy option to combat obesity in Malaysia. Why we are talking so much on obesity? Because obesity, as I mentioned earlier, this is a basic. This is the entry point of many diseases. especially the NCDs. Yeah? So now we are introducing in stages the SSB tax. I'm not too sure the sugar sweetened beverages tax, whether you are aware of that or not, yeah, in terms of the SSB tax implementation. Now government has increased in the current research budget speech 2024. We have increased the excise tax from 40 cents to 50 cents. So I said, oh, 50 cents is still so cheap, not even reach about 20% of what it's supposed to. All right. Okay, next slide. Again, in terms of the National Strategic Plan to reduce sugar consumption among Malaysians. So apart from salt reduction, so these are the things that we would like to really address, especially the sugar consumption, because we are consuming too much sugars. Sugars is basically providing us with zero nutrient. It's a nutrient, is a zero nutrient. So basically, these are the things. They just give us the calories without any nutrient in it. So these are the things that we would like to go all out. So basically, the tagline for the sugar reduction is sugar, 1 teaspoon is enough, less is better, none is even better. So these are the things that we would like to actually inculcate. So instead of we are going to the gerai or what you just say, kurang gula or what, you just say our standard is that 1 teaspoon is enough. So none is basically the best. Okay, next. So in relation with the cost of living, in terms of the poverty line income, we realize now in 2023, the price of rice used to be 25 ringgit, 25, 26 per 10 kgs. But now it's already reached roughly about 40 ringgit. Even the eggs also used to be 30 ringgit per 30, one pack of eggs, about 30 eggs there. So roughly in terms, this is the PLI for 2022, 1,198. So we expected that. That's why we have asked DOSM if you can run another survey to find out, after all the price hike. So what is the PLI for Malaysia, especially for food? I presume it will be much, much higher than 2022. So, okay, next slide. Okay, I'm not too sure whether you're aware on the Malaysian Dietary Guideline. This is a basic guideline. In the Malaysian Dietary Guideline, we have key messages, key recommendation, and how to achieve. So just to summarize, okay, next slide. There is a Malaysian Healthy Plate. Yeah? Malaysian Healthy Plate using the concept of quarter, and half. And at the side of the Malaysian Healthy Plate, this is the size of 10-inch plate or 25 centimeter each round plate, not the square one. So it's half of your plate should be fruit and veggies, and quarter of your plate should be coming from protein, and a quarter of your plate should be coming from the carbohydrate sources. These are the things. So if you cannot remember the food pyramid, remember the Malaysian Healthy Plate. This is to make things easier, especially if you are taking your main meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, now we go to the next slide. So if you notice, in the Malaysian food pyramid, there is a huge change or transition. In the Malaysian Food Pyramid 2010, the base of pyramid is basically carbohydrate sources. And in the Malaysian Food Pyramid, the recent one, we are focusing on fruit and veggies at the base of the pyramid. It shows that, we notice that because there is a huge increase in terms of diet-related NCDs, and we have to be mindful in terms of your portion sizes. So we also emphasize in terms of the variety, and also at the tips of the pyramid there is we have basically to limit the intake of fat, of sugars, and also salt intake. So these are the things we have to be mindful in terms of our daily recommendations. Okay, next. All right, so there are also a series of Malaysian Dietary Guideline for specific group. Malaysian Dietary Guideline for older person, Malaysian Dietary Guideline for vegetarian, and also Malaysian Dietary Guideline for children and adolescents. You can refer this to get a quick reference for that. Okay, next slide. So basically, in terms of the current nutrition programs to combat DBM in Malaysia, so actually there are various programs being conducted. So from the maternal, infant and young child, toddlers, school children, elderly, or adolescent, all that. So there are various programs. I'm not going to highlight that since we have a time constraint. So if need be, we'll highlight that in our discussion later on. Okay, next. Okay, this is a nutrition program by setting. We also engage the food and beverage industries because quite a number of Malaysians are consuming also processed food. So there is also healthier choice logos for us to introduce to facilitate us to choose which food is healthier as compared to other food in the same categories. Okay, next. Okay, next slide. So I need to skip. Okay, go to the school. Okay, so basically why school? I need to highlight here why school is so crucial because school is one of the places where we have a controlled environment. So, and quite a number of kids, they spend their times about 8, 10, 11 hours, 12 hours in school. So basically, that's why we have to optimize the presence of children in school so that we have to make sure that the healthy school canteen guideline is being implemented. So we used to have nugget, we used to have syrup, we used to have carbonated drinks sold in school, but now it's being prohibited, not allowed at all to be sold in school canteen. We only have 2 categories of food, allowed and not allowed. So no more carbonated drink, no more syrup, no more nugget, no more the unhealthy food being sold in the school canteen. And we also have introduced the healthy school meal package. And we also encourage, in Malaysia, since the implementation is voluntary, so we encourage parents to participate because healthy school meal package is basically the parents need to pay a certain amount of money, not much, RM3.50 per meal. It's very cheap and you don't have to worry. So when they are in school, so these are the things. So they are using the 1 month cycle menu, so you can find out from the school whether your children are involved in the implementations of healthy school meal packages. Okay, at the workplace, so there is also various initiatives being carried out, so such as the healthy cafeterias, healthy meal in meeting, but this is very challenging because we used to be, the Malaysian cultures, we are having abundance of food, so it's not easy for us to actually implement the initiative. All right, next. Okay, we go to the last slide on the challenges. So, after all this, so whether we have done enough, so why our NCDs are still increasing? So of course we can, to a certain extent, we managed to reduce the pace of increase. So what actually contributes? So we realize that Malaysia is a multi-ethnicity. So in terms of the celebration, we have year-round celebration. We have Malaysia is basically food heaven. So we always say Malaysia is truly Asia. So you can find, even you have the American nasi goreng. Even the American also, we couldn't find the American nasi goreng there, but you can find that in Malaysia. You have they are very creative. You have all the pisang cheese, banana cheese, all that, things that the Western even never use, that kind of thing. So this is the 24-hour restaurant. This is what we are trying to work with the local authorities to control their operating hours. Instead of the operating 24 hours, we try to limit till 12 a.m. At the midnight. So in terms of the mushrooming of 24-hour restaurant, fast food restaurant, and also all the whatever, the viral posts on unhealthy food, drinks, all that. So if you go to the Petronas, you can see all the bubble tea, tea life, all those. So all those drinks are basically very high in sugars, high in calorie, and very little nutrients. So these are the things that what we require is we need a more aggressive, more radical approach. And we also need the involvement of all because it affects the cost of living, not only to the government, but also to especially for the individual. Because you spend, why are you spending so much? You don't mind to spend, to buy 12 ringgit, 40 life or what, but you're really mindful to buy 1 kg of oranges. So these are the things you have to think of because every person, will be us at the end of the day. So this is the concept of halal and toibah. Jadi we have to bear that in mind. So you are responsible of your health, and this is the thing that all of us need to bear that in mind. Okay, with that, I will end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Puan Rusidah. I think I completely agree with you. All these viral food in Malaysia, that's too much, right? Banyak sangat. I think, Professor Cooray, Malaysians probably are one of the highest users of social media, right? In our social media, there's lots of viral, unhealthy, high-calorie food. Correct? Okay. So I'm sure you all here, multi-sectoral, multiple organization. You are not going to post anything like that, right? And we are going to teach our own family not to do that as well. And I think I just want to recap the statistics. 1 in 2 adults have abdominal obesity in Malaysia. 1 in 3 obese, 1 in 5 hypertensive, 1 in 5 diabetic, and 1 in 15.5% have got chronic kidney disease. Yeah. So this is where I come. When I work in the hospitals, they come in very late, and most of our end-stage kidney disease yang on need dialysis, they are because of diabetes. It's 60 to 70% of patients who needs dialysis is because of diabetes. So at the end of the day, it's still lifestyle, right? And it's very, very important. And you've seen the statistics, 95% are eating unhealthily. Yeah? And not taking enough correct things anyway. And this has costed the country quite a lot. So I think it's very, very important. But I'm also looking forward to Professor Cooray's talk. I think, let me introduce him, which I think a lot of people probably don't need introduction. He's the Professor of Economics in the Graduate School of International Relations in International University of Japan, Niigata. I've not been to Niigata, but looking forward to going there, hopefully. And he's actually from Sri Lanka. He's lived in Japan for 33 years. He had his PhD from Nagoya 26 or 27 years ago, which now his son has received a PhD from that university. He's got lots of research. I won't go through his CV, it'll take me days. And obviously he has had many appointments and researches with the United Nations previously. His talk is very important. We had a long chat because diet in Japan is also rice-based, right? Like Malaysia, right? So, it's very interesting to see and listen to Professor Cooray's talk on how, the diet in Japan has changed. The dietary changes in Japan has changed the lifestyle of Japanese. I think it's a very important topic because they are rice-based as well. But what I noticed is they do more healthy lifestyle. I'm not too sure Professor Cooray is also doing yoga and all the rest of it for his students. I think we should all do that as well. Yeah. So I think while Prof, are you okay now? Okay. So let's listen to his talk, Dietary Changes of Japanese Society Impacting Lifestyle. Professor Cooray.
Selamat pagi. I think you can hear me, right? Yeah. Selamat pagi. Good morning. Konnichiwa. As our moderator introduced, I'm originally from Sri Lanka, but I have been living in Japan for last 33 years. Otherwise, you may be surprised to see talking about dietary changes of Japanese society by a Sri Lankan. So I think I can do justice to this topic because I have been living for a long time. So I can do justice to the topic. I think it's clear if I speak this speed level, right? Yeah. Let me begin by thanking the organizers for inviting me to share some of the stories from Japan. In fact, my presentation on dietary changes of Japanese society impacting lifestyle is really complementing my previous speaker. So my life now is easier for me because she gave very comprehensive, rich presentation about Malaysian situation. So what I will be doing, next slide, this is how I am going to base my outline of the presentation. just to give an introduction, the first, the next, yes. So to begin with, let me just highlight some kind of unalienable rights. The life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness are basically unalienable rights of every individual. It doesn't matter whether it's Japanese, Malaysian, or Sri Lankans. So therefore, any policy making process or policy makers of any country is basically has to enhance the pursuit of happiness or well-being of citizens. When I say well-being of citizens, there are two different kinds of well-being. Material well-being and spiritual well-being. I was talking with my moderator that I will be speaking only the material well-being, even though I'm doing yoga and mindfulness practices for last 20 years or so in my university, doing those voluntary things. But today I will be speaking on the material well-being. Now, as you can see here, material well-being of a country very much linked to food security, which consists of availability, access, utilization, and stability. And therefore, overall well-being of a country depends finally what you eat, what we eat rather, what we drink, and how we spend our life. So as our former speaker correctly pointed out, so the healthy life depends on these things, what we eat, what we drink, and how we live. And the conference today basically taking theoretically sound and empirically back comprehensive, what I call it multidisciplinary approach to enhance the pursuit of happiness and well-being of Malaysians to the next level. That's, I think, the whole purpose of organizing this conference, getting people from different disciplines. And I'm happy that the ministry has called people like me coming from education with economics background, and my former speaker, both of them are from medical field. And I think we cannot talk about well-being of citizens or the pursuit of happiness without talking about health and education, because that is the very foundation of a nation. Country depends on human resource development. And human resource development, we cannot talk without health and education. So I think the ministry is doing a correct approach to, for the next, to improve the well-being of Malaysian citizens. Next, please. And let me start with some of the information. I'm talking about the section 2. Next slide. Let me bring you to the world, how we see the world in 2100. So I'm just sharing this information to share any country will be like this. It could be Japan or any country. We used to have maybe 50 years ago, we had bottom-heavy population pyramid. Now, of course, you can see we will not have in the future bottom-heavy pyramid. That means we all get aging. So Japan is talking about super aging society, and sooner or later Malaysia and many other countries will be facing the same issue. Next. And then let me explain this how Malaysia spend on their food consumption, because this conference theme is cost of living. So I thought of sharing to give a comparative picture about how Malaysians spend on food. You can see, if you look at this bottom part, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, you can see Malaysia, if you think of the kind of 45-degree here, Malaysia is spending a big share of their expenditure on food. That means Malaysians are spending kind of a big amount of money for food. Next. And then I will be comparing Japan and Malaysia with some other selected countries to give some kind of justification as to why we are sharing Japanese experience. So in terms of life expectancy, you can see Japan is on the top among this list, and Malaysia you can see the third from the bottom. Malaysia life expectancy is going up, but Japan you can see is on the top. And this is the next annual trends in cancer mortality rate for 1,000 people. You can see there are on your right hand side males cancer, and then female cancer on our right hand side. So Japan is basically, you can see particularly the female cancer is on the bottom. So what does it mean? We can see UK, Canada, female cancer, is very high, but Japan is the bottom. And next. Let me just see how the cancer death rate in Japan. You can see cancer death rate in Japan is in declining trend. Now, what is happening in countries like Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Thailand? It is going up. Now, you can see the gravity of the problem relating to the cancer patient. These developed countries, including Japan, the trend is going down, while countries in this part of the world is going up. You can see how it's going up. Next. Now, when it comes to the death, the causes of death, smoking is the second risk factor for death worldwide. You can see the first one, high blood pressure, and the second, the smoking is the death, the risk factor for death. Now, next, if you look at the number of daily smokers in Japan, you can see the male on the top and the down female. I'm not worried about the female smokers, but I'm talking about the male smokers. Japan is in the declining trend. But if you look at Malaysia and Sri Lanka, unfortunately, it is increasing trend. It's going up. And you can see a comparative picture next. Let's look at the BMI. I think my previous speaker talked about the obesity. So BMI is one indicator to measure the obesity. You can see US on the top, and then Japan, you can see it's the bottom. Particularly, if you look at the women BMI, it's around 22. And which is ideal. So in a way, it is going down continuously from 1975 until recently, even now. So Malaysia, in fact, is going up. Now you can see the gravity of the problem. Next. Now in Malaysia, the men BMI is going up, while in Japan also basically it's not that high, lower than Malaysian. Next. Now let me go to the share of adult men overweight versus daily supply of calories. If you look at the lower group of countries, Malaysia, Japan, Thailand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Philippines, you can see their per capita income is not that high, but Malaysia, among all these groups, it's close to 40%. So that means the share is higher than Japan, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and Sri Lanka, you can see. So I'm not going to give a kind of bad picture, but I'm talking about the real situation. I'm letting data to speak. I'm getting this data from our world in data. This is a database which was created by Johns Hopkins University. Now, let me look at the obesity data again. If you can see on your left-hand side, the panel, Japan is, among all the developed countries, Japan is on the bottom in terms of obesity. Now, so why, if you look at the level of activity, I'm talking about the walking, number of steps that Japanese are walking. On average, 6,800 per day for men and women 5,800. They are quite active. If you look at Japan is still number 2. China is on the top. Right. So this gives you very detailed data. I just want to share some information about the data that Japan has. They have prefectural level, even lower level data maintaining even the number of steps that people have walked. So they are collecting detailed data. So you can see even when you are walking, that is being counted. So they maintain data, the rich database, so that you can monitor your behavior. So local level governments, they have this data. Next. Now, when it comes to the why there is a low prevalence of obesity in Japan, it's basically healthy lifestyle and then taking low calories. Japanese are taking 200 fewer calories than on average American person. And then traditionally Japan has very healthy dietary patterns. And then Japanese are physically active and they walk more than some other countries citizens are doing. Next. And let me move on to the third one. And then maybe historically it is important. I think Malaysia has also rich dietary patterns, getting inputs, maybe the influence from China, India, and every nations are basically changing their dietary patterns because of the globalization and influence overseas. Japan is not exceptional. So Japan started this rice-based culture. Basically, rice went to Japan from China, and they started, this rice-based culture 2,000, 3,000 years ago. And earlier, they were basically changing their style from hunting and gathering to this food agri-based, rice-based societies. Next. And I will be going quickly because of the time constraints. I will not spend more time to discuss the historical evolution of dietary patterns. So next, you can see shinen cooking is the very kind of origin of Japanese meal style. And next, you can see daiko cooking. Next, daiko cooking. And then that's basically the cooking style, one of the oldest known cooking or the dish in Japan. Next. And then sojin cooking. In fact, this sojin cooking also very important because it was introduced to Japan together with the Zen Buddhism, which came from China to Japan. So they basically advocated, vegetable base or vegetarian base. They basically encourage not to eat meat. So in other words, quit carnivorous patterns of life. So this sojin cooking basically introduced very rich, vegetable-based food culture in Japan. Next, onsen cooking is also it was very popular among warrior household. So that also prevailed until basically this onsen cooking style were disappeared from Japan immediately after World War II. Next. And then keiseki cooking also another important dietary pattern. So that's basically did change a lot of, increase the number of dishes. Traditional multi-course Japanese dinner. So that was the beginning of this multi-course Japanese dinner. You have huge variation or varieties of food that they started during this period. So they also encourage during this period, enjoying eating. That's a very important thing. Next. And, Western also countries influence Japanese food style. So Western type of food, they call it yoshoku. It was basically brought to Japan during Meiji Restoration from 1868 to 1921. So a lot of foreign vegetable brought during this time. Next. And let me move on to the section, fourth section. I think this is where I would like to share some of the interesting stories with our Malaysian friends. Next. As you may remember, in December 2013, what we call it washoku, Japanese traditional cuisine, was registered as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage. I think this is not only a food, it basically is a social practice based on a set of skills, knowledge, practice, traditions relating to production, processing, preparation, consumption of food. So this is basically associated with many things. So that brought Japanese, people kind of revival of their traditional food to the mainstream. Next. I think something went on. Maybe I will continue until they get back to the slides. So washoku is a traditional Japanese food that they have. Okay, yep, it's coming now. I'm sorry for the technical trouble. Washoku is a kind of traditional, dietary pattern. So which is rich in terms of nutrition level. You can see this slide. Basically, what Japanese normally believe is good food and eating equate to good health and a family life. So they basically focus on eating food when it comes to Japanese traditional food. So it has to have vegetable, rice, meat, pickle, soup, and then you will see Japanese food pyramid. I think you could see Malaysian pyramid also from our previous speaker. Now this is Japanese food pyramid. You can see 5 to 7 grain dishes, 5 to 6 vegetable dishes, and 3 to 5 fish and meat dishes, 2 milk, and then 2 fruits. So this is really a kind of healthy way of eating according to Japanese tradition. Next. You can see from the next slide, Japanese, the rice consumption in Japan is going down. In early 60s, Japanese on average used to eat about more than 110 kilos per year. But now they are eating just about 40 kilos of rice per year. So rice consumption has gone down in Japan, even though it is still rice-based society. Next. So you can see from the next slide how the rice has gone down and vegetable and meat eating have gone up. Next. So this slide will tell the per capita fish consumption, fish and seafood. You can see among these countries, Japan eat about 7 grams for one meal fish. And Malaysia eat about, Japan 17 grams and Malaysia eat 15 grams. It's quite, compatible, Japanese and, Malaysians. So what I want to say, Japan eat more fish, perhaps one of the highest fish eaters in the world. Right. And next. So this shows very interesting information. Our previous speaker also talked about school education. For me, I completely agree with her because in my understanding, you need 13 years to change your food culture. How do we start? Why I said 13 years? It is schooling years. I think it's 12 years. I don't know, education in Malaysia is 12 years or 13 years. Doesn't matter, either it is 12 years or 13 years. You need only that time to change the whole society, whole country. Starting from grade 1, and when students gradually go up to grade 12 or grade 13, then they have learned anything, how to eat, what to eat, and how to live. They basically, you can train kids, not the adults like me and you. Perhaps we are very hard to learn about this, all this change of the food pattern that we have been brought up. But it is easy for us to change children, starting from grade 1. So you can mold those small kids to any shape. So therefore, I think our previous speaker also said that, we have to start from schools. So that's the reason why I said education and health will contribute. In Japanese school, I know because 2 of my children were attending Japanese school. So Japanese schools, they get like the information about the next month food 1 month ahead. So all the details, is even the nutritional level, everything the students are basically taught. And so kids eat with the teachers because lunch are provided at school. So I think this is something that very successful story that we can share from Japan. I don't know whether the meals are provided in Malaysian school, but in Japan schools, kids are getting lunch at school. Okay, I think maybe if we go to the next slide about Japanese average daily calorie intake. The next, you can see here Japanese calorie intake even lower than Malaysia. On average, Japanese take 2,754 calories. They are very care about the calorie intake. They have money, but they are not taking high calorie. Malaysians are taking 2,845 calories, whereas Sri Lankans take 2,737 calories. America is on the top. So why, Japan, why they maintain, if they want to maintain good health, we have to reduce the calorie intake. So you can see Japanese are taking less calorie, even lower than Malaysia, even though in terms of per capita income, Japan is higher, but they are taking less calorie. Next. Data matters. You can see Japan maintained this nutrient intake even from 1946. You can see in the bottom, the nutrition level is not that very high, but in 2019, you can see almost all categories relating to this nutrient intake, Japanese are taking necessary appropriate nutrient food. Next. The other thing, shokuiku. So this is really important thing that I think educating about food. They are starting from from school. Now, next, if you look at this, a whole comprehensive program advocated or introduced by Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. So this program was introduced in 2005, and many stakeholders are involved in here. Various organizations, food-related business, health authorities, medical institutions, national government, local government, schools, the person engaged in agriculture, forestry and fisheries, volunteers. It's a huge kind of thing, next, that the Japanese government is talking about promoting shokuiku. And then you can see next, okay, yeah, sorry, back. Yes, this one. So this program is when it was introduced in 2005, the people were interested, 69% were interested, but now in 2020, 83% of the population are interested in this program. Next. You can see that almost all prefectures have implemented 100%, and local governments, local level governments is 89%. Local governments have already introduced this food education programs. Next. Maybe this dietary guidelines, it's not, maybe Malaysia also have this dietary, the first one, enjoy your meal, establish healthy rhythms by keeping regular hours for meals, maintain the proper weight with adequate exercise, well-balanced meals, eat well-balanced meals and with staple food, main, and side dishes. Fifth one, eat enough grains. And then next slide, also the list of 5 practices that, Japan government is advocating. Next. Now, let me tell you one thing, the very interesting one. Despite all these positive things that I have shared with you up to now, Japan has what we call metabolic syndrome. What does it mean? It's basically some risk factors like heart attack, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. It is basically coming from what we call it, high glucose level, low level of, good HDL, cholesterol, and half of all men have this metabolic syndrome. And 1 in 5 women have this metabolic syndrome, meaning the bigger waist. So in order to address this, I think our previous speaker also spoke about this. In order to do that, lot of actions are being taken. It is central government program, but now many companies are implementing. So companies must slim their workforce. What they are doing, basically they are paying high insurance premium, and companies are introducing lifestyle instruction courses, and they are also providing healthy menus for their workers, and workers are even encouraged to do meditation. Now I think meditation, as I said, I have been teaching meditation and yoga in my university since 2005. Now many companies are starting this yoga and then mindfulness training. Perhaps, that's what I said, if we want to improve the well-being, we have to think of the spiritual side of the well-being, meaning we have to do some meditation. Let me share one good example in Sri Lanka, not from Japan. This year, Sri Lankan Ministry of Education introduced meditation program in every school. So this is basically educating students about the kids about spiritual side of our life. Because if we are not thinking of material well-being and spiritual well-being, we are lost. So I think this is something we have to learn from East, Oriental wisdom, local wisdom, not from the West. Because now US universities, they are doing mindfulness yoga, but unfortunately those things started in Asia. We Asians are not doing much of this meditation and mindfulness or yoga now. Americans and Europeans are doing it. Perhaps we have to go back to our history and start these things. So with this, I think I will finish, and my concluding remarks. I think I started saying that Japanese Ministry of Trade, the policymakers are doing real things, getting inputs from different policy kind of perspective from different discipline. So what matters in my understanding, if you just go to the Keynes, what Keynes say, the Keynes, the father of modern macroeconomics, he argued that economics does not finish body of settled conclusion immediately applicable to policy. What he's saying, we have to understand the apparatus of our mind, the economic way of thinking. So what is the economic way of thinking? My last slide. If our ministry, policymakers are interested in improving the well-being of Malaysians, or bringing the well-beingness of Malaysian to the next level, what policymakers have to do, we have to understand this human nature. What matters is choice matters. Malaysians, young generation, they are crazy of choices. We have to think of choices. Just making policy doesn't make any meaning without giving enough opportunities for our generation, our people. And the cost matters. Cost is also a very important thing that many policymakers have to think of when we introduce any kind of policy to bring the well-being. And then incentives matter, institution matter, evidence matter. So I think this is what I have to share, from economist perspective, these 5 areas that I think is, this is the human nature. We all respond to these choices, cost, incentives, institution, evidence. Without evidence, without theory, young generation will not accept. So we have to give evidence. That is the reason why I shared some empirical evidence from Japan. If I think this will help, if we can share this lesson, I think that will be useful for our policymakers here in Malaysia. So with this, I conclude. And once again, thank you so much for the organizers for inviting me and organizing this wonderful, timely conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Cooray, for that excellent talk. We have 10 minutes. Maybe I will start a question to you, Puan Rusidah, while Professor Cooray have a seat. Thank you so much. You see, we have a lot of policies within, the Ministry of Health. I think your department has worked really hard for those policies and strategic plannings. We have a lot of multi-sectoral here as well. I think in a sense that we hope that you take up all the, recommendations, strategies and all that. I'm just asking, in part of implementing it on the ground, do you think it would be an idea if we make it a regulation? Like, for example, maybe if the shops would like to get registration, or by law you have to do certain things to address the nutrition in that shop, for example. What do you think about that?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rafidah. I think it's a really excellent question, and it's a really timely issues being raised, because now actually we are working on coming up with the Nutrition Act. We realize that we cannot afford just to have and rely on the soft policies. Yeah, of course, we are doing all the advocacies, we are trying to empower the populations, but that will not be enough. So we have to have hand in hand the hard policies. That is through regulations. We need the hard policies. So hopefully now we are working on that Nutrition Act to cover at least what sort of regulation, for example, the 24-hour restaurant, in terms of, we need more on that hard policies for us to actually implement and make it mandatory for food to be labeled, in the fast food restaurant, because all these fast food restaurants, they are really mushrooming. We cannot really stop them, but we need to educate not only the population, but also we need to make it mandatory for not only the fast food restaurant, but also all the food vendors, the restaurant, actually labeled, so that we can have the informed choices for the consumers and for other things as well. So we have to really go for the hard policies as well, especially the regulations. And so the involvement of other ministries or agencies is really timely for that, really critical and crucial for that. Thank you.
I completely echo that. Before I get Professor Cooray's opinion on that matter as well, in terms of hard policies. On top of that, I would like to know, we had a long chat before we came. A lot of us, we have forgotten that we should be looking east rather than looking west, Perhaps, I also would like to know, how do you, how do you impart the change of specific diets in Japan to make it Japanese, but incorporating all other elements like Western and all that? What are your suggestions for us in Malaysia? Probably drawing upon your experience in Sri Lanka as well. Yeah,
thank you. I think it's really important question. We were talking about this issue. Japanese are very smart in getting good things from the West. They took medicine from German, arts from France, technology from US and UK, and they blend it with their local knowledge. Japan is one of very interesting country because they still maintain their rich culture while modernizing in every aspect. So modernization on one hand and maintaining culture and tradition on the other hand is really good blend. I think perhaps, Malaysia and Sri Lanka, countries like our countries can think of that. Blending good things from different cultures. Because Malaysia, Sri Lanka, we were colonized by British, fortunately or unfortunately. And we have very good things. In fact, when we look at our local way of eating, in Sri Lanka we call Ayurveda, and Malaysia also you have Ayurveda. I think now in Sri Lanka, many people are going back to this original kind of eating patterns, Ayurvedic way of eating. Ayurveda means it's a life science. Ayur means life. Veda means science. So if you look at the meaning of this local name, Ayurveda is a life science. We don't need anything from the West if you are really practicing what we have in local. Ayurveda. I think in Malaysia you have very, I don't know whether it is popular, but in Sri Lanka, Ayurveda is getting very popular. So we have this well-beingness, basically yoga, meditation, Ayurveda. A lot of tourists are coming to Sri Lanka to practice those things. Perhaps I think it's really good thing if you can get the best out of best. And also another area where we can focus now, because of technology, we can monitor our health indicators. Diabetes, many things, everything can be monitored through the modern devices. I think our young generations are in a better position to take care of their own health based on their technology. We didn't have that opportunities in the past. I think our young generations are in a better position to think of their own health. I'm sure, as my other previous speaker mentioned, education matters. So let them use the modern technology to monitor their own health. Then that they change themselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Maybe just one or two more questions before we end the session in a couple more minutes. One question to you, Puan Rusidah. People always say that, the good food is expensive. Is that really true in Malaysia?
Well, if we notice that, if you are looking into the food pyramids and also the Mahati plate, they don't mention that you have to take the lamb chop, because you make it expensive. That's why it's expensive. Because the basic food basically is not expensive. That's why I say it's basically a choice. Because I mentioned earlier, you choose to take boba sticks instead of buying a bouquet of fruit. So these are the things that that we have to be smart enough, and not necessarily that healthy food is expensive, because we make it expensive, basically.
Yeah. I think we shouldn't, even, in fact, if we eat less, it's not going to be expensive as well.
Yeah, right. Because one thing is that we have to be mindful of our intake. Because in one day, we just need about quarter and a half. Because you only need about quarter of your diet basically from the protein sources. Because you don't take the whole plate of your intake of your lunch basically from protein. Because you are taking too much protein, you'll basically overload your kidney. This is the thing. Because that's why we are having so much, quite a number in terms of renal failures, all that. Because the sign of well, we always relate that with the high protein diet. We have prawns, we have meat, we have all those chicken in place. So these are the things we have to really address. So we have to be mindful of the protein intake. We have to be mindful on our carbohydrate intake. And we have to take more fruit and veggies. If you notice, even in Japan, recommendation is about 5 to 6 serving of veggies. In Malaysia, is at least 3 serving. Even then, we really struggle to fulfill the requirements to make sure that they are taking enough. Because perhaps it's our deep-rooted culture. Because in Malaysia, one bowl of veggies we share with the family of 4 or 5. Not even. We just take the good thing from the Western culture because they are taking salad. Because these are the things that perhaps we need to really explore and actually instill to our population. Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Rusidah. One last final question to you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. I want to make clear that 2 important things. It doesn't matter whether it is dietary things or any kind of policies, particularly we are talking about the dietary patterns or lifestyle. There are 2 important things. It doesn't matter whatever the policies were implemented at central government level, ministries level. The decisions can be made at top level, or we can make information, like centralized. But when it comes to implementation, we have to decentralize. It's a very good example that Japanese, they are decentralizing all this implementation process to a very local level administrative unit. Perhaps this decentralization of all kind of policies when it comes to implementation is key for successfulness. decentralization, all those implementation process, and centralization of information relating to all these health indicators that she mentioned a while ago. Decentralization implementation process and centralization of information. That means center has information of everything so that policymakers can use this information for policy making, and decentralizing implementation at local level, the key for success. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think with those wise words, we will end the session. I think it has been such a wonderful, for me, I've learned a lot. Let's just recap, just a summary to all of you. This is where, you know, it's very important for me as well. What I'm seeing every day in my practice is quite disheartening. Patients having multi-organ failures from non-communicable disease, deaths from complications of heart attacks, of cancers and all that. So I think it's something that you don't want to go, and I think prevention is way much better than cure. With that, I thank the two speakers. Let's thank them in the, the right manner. Thank you so much. And thank you, the organizing committee, for inviting us. Assalamualaikum. Thank you so much.